Hello everyone! In this video, we'll give you 3 tips for what to do before you request a new ROR ID. They'll save you time and they'll help us process your request faster. Let's begin. The first tip is pretty simple. Search the registry to see if the organization already has a ROR ID. You can search right from our homepage at ROR.org, or you can go directly to ROR.org/search. With over 126,000 organizations in the registry, there's a good chance the organization already has a ROR ID. Say that you plan to request a ROR ID for the Ifakara Health Institute. Let's search to see if it already has a ROR ID. Yes, it does. That means you don't need to request a ROR ID for it. Note that this search produces over 15,000 results because the ROR web search is looking for all 3 words you've entered, and the words health and institute are very common. If the organization name includes a unique or unusual term, you can search only on that term. Searching only for Ifakara gives only 1 result. You can search in any language, and you can search for any name variant. But again, the essential point here is that there's already a ROR ID for this organization, so you don't need to request one for it. On to tip number 2. If the organization doesn't already have a ROR ID, one useful step to take before requesting a ROR ID is to make sure that the organization is in scope for ROR. You can find information about what's in scope for ROR on the registry page of our website at ROR.org/registry. Remember that ROR is the research organization registry, which means that ROR is a registry of research and funding organizations. In other words, records in ROR represent independent, enduring, collective entities that are involved in the production and sponsorship of research. That includes companies, universities and colleges, government agencies, nonprofits, hospitals, and more. However, subdivision entities, such as university faculties, colleges, schools, departments, and service units are not in scope for ROR since they aren't organizations in themselves and don't operate independently of their parent institutions. The ROR community has determined that including these kind of component entities in ROR would make it more difficult to connect research outputs to research organizations. ROR does support organizational hierarchies and relationships for child and related entities. For example, Universitat de Valencia in Spain has several child research institutes and centers that function largely independently of the parent university, so these have their own ROR IDs. But the faculties and departments of this university do not have ROR IDs. Similarly, when a large organization has separate locations, each location can have its own ROR ID if it operates independently. This is often the case for multinational corporations and nonprofits and large university systems. Thermo Fisher Scientific, for instance, has its headquarters in the United States, but it also has several branches in other countries, and these receive their own ROR IDs so that research outputs can be linked to a specific business unit of the organization. However, just as with universities, internal departments of the company do not have ROR IDs. Funders are in scope for ROR, and that includes many sub-agencies of large national funders, as you can see in the record for the Czech Academy of Sciences. However, funding programs and schemes are not in scope for ROR since they are not organizations, so the funding schemes and programs of the Czech Academy of Sciences are not included in ROR. We've received thousands of requests to create ROR IDs for entities that are not in scope for ROR, including projects, initiatives, and entities that are not organizations such as individual academic journals. Note too that single-person organizations such as consultancies are also not in scope for ROR, even when they are legal entities, since these entities do not persist beyond the life of the owner. ORCID IDs are more appropriate for identifying the work of an individual. In short, carefully reading these guidelines about the types of organizations that are in scope for ROR can help you determine if you should go on to request a new ROR ID. If you search the registry for an organization and have read the scope and criteria for inclusion and are ready to request a new ROR ID, the next step is to go to the request form. You can click the button Suggest an Addition or Update to ROR on the registry page to go to the form. Let's look at the form for the third and perhaps most important tip. The first page of the request form asks for basic information, such as your email address. The second page of the form asks you to confirm that you're sure that the organization is not already in ROR and that you're sure that the organization is in scope for ROR. The third page of the request form asks for the organization's name, website, and domain, and I've filled those out with placeholder information for Bryn Mawr College, which does already have a ROR ID, of course, but for now we'll pretend it doesn't. Now we come to one of the most important parts of the form. Provide DOIs or URLs for research publications that use the organization as an affiliation or that acknowledge the organization. The DOIs or URLs in this field provide evidence that the organization is acknowledged by multiple people in reputable published research as an author or contributor affiliation, as a funder, or as a publisher. Let's look at each of these DOIs to see if they acknowledge Bryn Mawr College. Here's the first one. The author of this article is affiliated with Bryn Mawr College. Let's look at the second one. The second author of this publication is affiliated with Bryn Mawr College. Let's look at the third one. The second author on this publication is affiliated with Bryn Mawr College. So that's plenty of evidence that Bryn Mawr College is a collective and enduring entity where more than one person conducts and publishes reputable research. If you're struggling to find links for this field, that might be a sign that the organization isn't quite ready for a ROR ID yet, especially if the organization is brand new. It's best to wait until a new organization has evidence of involvement in research before requesting a ROR ID. To recap, here are our 3 tips for requesting a new ROR ID. Number 1, check to see if the organization already has a ROR ID. Number 2, make sure the organization is in scope for ROR. And number 3, collect DOIs or URLs for research outputs that acknowledge the organization as an author affiliation, a funder, or a publisher. Still not sure about the process? You can email us at support@ror.org with any questions, and we'll be happy to advise you. We hope these tips are helpful. Thank you for using ROR.